Hello and welcome to another wonderful edition of Eye on Port, the program that brings Ghana's shipping and maritime industry closer to you. Eye on Port is proudly brought to you by the Ghana Revenue Authority, GOIL, PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link and the Meridian Port Services. Eye on Port is powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, and our media partner is the Business and Financial Times. Viewers, this week we are exploring how to create a sustainable supply chain in Africa. This comes on the back of the Maiden ICC Africa Sustainable Supply Chain Summit that was held in Accra last week, which looked at how the continent can surmount disruptions to supply chain and take full advantage of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Let us take a sneak peek into this particular event, and then we come back to dive into the main discussion. The International Chamber of Commerce, ICC Ghana, in collaboration with the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, has organized the maiden edition of the Africa Sustainable Supply Chain Summit in Accra. The annual event is designed to serve as a platform to exchange ideas and collaborate on the impact of market dynamics and new technologies for current and future supply chain and operations leaders. The just ended two-day conference in Accra created the opportunity for participants, largely private sector, to examine how to navigate supply chain disruptions within AFTA, as well as how sustainable supply chain management, advanced technologies, process improvement, and automation are being rolled out and can be leveraged in Africa. The various speakers at the opening ceremony highlighted the need to accelerate Africa's market integration on the back of sustainable and efficient supply chain systems.
Because a robust foundation will help increase resilience. Because clear and efficient processes will be in place. People will have certainty, businesses will have a framework. And I would go further. The AFCFTA can be a catalyst for sustainable development, as the chairman said. Simply said, with lower trade costs, more trade will happen, and this will in the long term create more growth, more revenues, and more opportunities for better and more decent jobs and investment.
We all know, and has been mentioned, the delays and disruptions that affected global supply chains due to the COVID pandemic, and more recently the war in Ukraine and the global economic crisis, are a stark reminder that broken supply chains are one of the greatest threats to inclusive growth and sustainable human development in our continent. So strengthening the resilience of Africa's supply chains and enhancing the implementation of integrated supply chain solutions to advance economic, social, and environmental goals is now more important than ever.
Many of us are not aware that Zimbabwe has annually $200 million worth of excess grains. And these excess grains go to waste because of the lack of capacity to store and process the grains, to export them to Southern Africa, to export them to the rest of the continent. And so the result, of course, is that when there is a geopolitical context somewhere in another part of the world, because the African continent relies over 70% of our grains, particularly wheat, barley, is imported from Ukraine and Russia. And so the challenge for us, all of us, is to establish supply chain networks, technologies, capabilities that will enable not just Zimbabwe in this case, but also Malawi, Ethiopia, and any other country that has the capacity to export and provide food security for the African continent to do so.
There is a common perception that reducing the environmental impact of business comes at a cost. A sustainable supply chain tries to transmit goods as cheaply and quickly as possible to the upstream supply chain and end customers while reducing or eliminating negative environmental and social impacts.
The keynote speaker and Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, Michael Otribefi, urged experts to come up with fruitful, pragmatic interventions to solve the challenges of AfTA due to the economic breakthrough it promises.
International trade involves a network of global logistics operators who deal with functions such as ocean shipping, air freight, land transport, warehousing, and third-party logistics. Domestically, we need to make it easy and affordable for traders to connect to logistic networks on the continent, especially with the introduction of the Pan-African payment system.
In a related development, the Meridian Port Services Limited has stated the readiness of the Port of Tema to serve as a logistics hub for intra-continental trade. The head of legal and compliance at MPS, Frank Ebu Brown, was speaking during the plenary session of the ICC Sustainable Supply Chain Summit in Accra.
So I just say that with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, we are ready. Ghana is ready. We have a facility that can be of service to unlocking the whole continent. Because what do we have? We have 16 meters of drafts. We can take any big vessel. The biggest vessels we can take them. So Ghana can be a fresh port of call. Why do we have to go to Tangiers or Penepas or to Oman to those hubs and bring in cargo? No. We can have direct services. We've even started having some of the direct services now.
He said MPS has ensured to align and automate its processes for 3 of its key clients, who are the shipping lines, the regulatory agencies, and cargo owners.
Because we want to be efficient, we have created about 8 or 10 booking windows of 2 to 3 hours, some of them overlap, so that the tracker is able to take an appointment within a particular time slot and come in, so we don't have congestion in the yard.
He explained that the terminal operator has continued to ensure that its operations are not only sustainable but efficient in order to play its part for a sustainable supply chain within the maritime trade sector. All right, viewers, like I said, our discussion is inspired by the event you just watched. Our goal here is to analyze what is lacking as well as what should be done when it comes to creating a sustainable supply chain in Africa. To help us do this, we interacted with Emmanuel Donikwame, who is the Secretary General for the ICC Ghana. We also interacted with Dr. Fatmata Sese with the UNDP, as well as Gertrude Ohene Esieni, who is a seasoned academic and chartered shipbroker. Here are highlights of that particular discussion. Take a listen.
So let me come to Mr. Donikwame and find out the element of production. Do we have, as a continent, have enough capacity to be able to produce enough to ensure that we trade effectively among ourselves?
We have more than enough, and we can start with the basic ingredient. That's food. Food security is key, and is the cause of most of the conflicts we have on the continent. So if there's excess supply elsewhere, how do you get it to the other side of the continent? So that calls for investment in transportation. So I'll just use an example of the Lagos to Abidjan corridor. There's a new project that's coming up. If we are to construct a new road just to avoid the conjunctions between Lome, going through Lome and going through Accra all the way to Abidjan.
Yes.
And it's well planned. Dangote is building an oil refinery. Yeah. One main input byproduct of an oil refinery is bitumen. Yeah. So you can have enough bitumen to fix your roads.
Absolutely.
They are very good local contractors with the necessary equipment to construct these roads. So the skills of finding a foreign contractor to come and do the roads, I don't think it's in there. At the summit, we got to know that there are about 97 checkpoints from Lagos to Abidjan. If you have a direct road with a tolled road to pay whoever invests in a project of that nature, with just 4 stops, one in Benin, one in Togo, one in Ghana, and then you get to Abidjan.
Right.
You pay your toll, you hit the road, within some few hours, you've done all your checks using the latest technology for us to know the goods that are in. You've paid all your duties. you can just move your goods across as pertains in Europe. So these are not rocket science, and you don't need any. There is enough resources on the continent to connect us. You know, so these are some of the projects that need to be put together and then sold to the business community. And through PPPs, public-private partnerships, I think we can get things done. Yeah.
Right. Awesome. Let me come to Dr. Fatima and find out from you the kind of investments that we require to be able to enhance production, to increase production for African countries so that we can support the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, which the UNDP is particular about.
Thank you so much. I really want to build on the positivity from Mr. Doni Kwame that says that indeed Africa has the capacity to produce and trade among ourselves. And I really want to agree with him. But you're right that there are a number of things that need to be in place for this to happen. And some of them, of course, have been challenges that have been trumpeted over the years. But then until they are fully resolved, we will not stop talking about them. And one is access to finance. So when you're looking at increasing my productivity, I have to be able to have the resources that will enable me to do that as an individual private sector actor, as a small-scale entrepreneur, or even as a large company. And here, there may be the resources, but the means of accessing that finance has remained a challenge, and that's one area. Another area is we should not only look at production as increasing the total number of, say, tons of grain that you grow. Yes. We should actually look at processing. We actually have to look at adding value and processing. And there are a number of things that we require for us to be able to add value, for us to get into a state of industrialization. And one of them is mechanization. We cannot continue the old means of production and expect us to reach the scale that is required. So really mechanization, energy, and power is critical for the continent, Ghana, and all the countries on the continent to really be able to produce at scale. We also have what we refer to as economies of scale. Yes. So you're producing kente, I'm producing kente, you're producing kente. But none of us are able to probably supply the market at once. Right. But we can come together, pool our resources, and be able to really supply where there's need for that. At the conference, I remember a speaker who mentioned that if we were to be asked to produce, to provide watermelon that is required, we are not going to be able to do it by a single individual or an enterprise alone. But we can come together for all those who are growing watermelon and be able to produce and then supply on a large scale. So value addition, including preservation, packaging, storage facilities remain a challenge. So we cannot emphasize on increasing production if we don't have all these other things of mechanization, how we process it, where we store it, how we package it, and then most critical, how do we move goods from one place to the other, which is then what underscores this very important summit that has just been concluded, which is the supply chain. So how do I move my own products, which might be primary goods that somebody else needs to produce their own, those supply chain connections, and how we even use technology. I shouldn't forget that at all, technological advancement, and how that has really helped many other countries outside of the continent and even within the continent is also really critical for us to see the kind of production scale that is required and also the processing that is required and the packaging for us to really hit the market and be able to do so on a sustained basis for all of the commodities that are needed on the continent.
Awesome. So let me come to Madam Ohinesia, and we've always talked about the issue of transportation when it comes to intra-Africa trade, when it comes to intercontinental trade and all that. One thing that matters particularly is transportation. It's very key. We've had conferences where we've talked about intermodal transport and all that, you know, just to propel. I shudder to think how come that, even in this age, Africa has not been able to figure out this particular issue of transportation to ensure effective and efficient, you know, trade amongst us and for us to realize our trading objectives. Why do you think that is?
For me, I think it's a matter of priority. We haven't understood the statement that he who commands the seas commands the trade. You know, we cannot leverage on supply chain management efficiently without looking at connectivity and infrastructural development. We have moved from the age where production, distribution, and the carriage were separate entities. Now, a customer is moving their cargo and they want it from door to door. So intermodal transport has to be connected for us to promote multimodalism. And you realize that everywhere in the world and countries that have succeeded in efficient supply chain management, they are doing through transport. So you pick the container from here, the rail system is ready, the inland waterway is ready to carry, the road system is efficient, and then it's transported to either the airport, the seaport, or whichever way is going to finally go to wherever it's going. Yeah. Also promoting the hub and spoke system, which is something that MPS spoke about when we were listening to the excerpts from the if we're able to make Africa a hub where our infrastructure is well developed with good road systems, good rail systems, our inland waterway is the most underdeveloped when it comes to the continent. Without developing these, there will be shortfalls in supply chain. Somebody said at the conference that you transport goes from here by sea to Nigeria in 3 days, and you wait so many days at the port due to delays, congestion. It's so frustrating. Increasing cost. Imagine having chartered that vessel. You are going to accrue demurrage and so many other costs, port cost and others. At the end of the day, all of these will be added to the cost of the goods, and you and I will pay for it.
Final consumer.
So it is important that we remove these bottlenecks and prioritize. If you take examples, if you look at anywhere in Ghana where a road is constructed, as soon as a road is constructed, you realize that buildings start springing up, businesses start springing up, and immediately there's a boost in economic activity. And that translates into the pocket of everyone. And it makes doing business very efficient and friendly. So it is important that our governments and partners who help us in developing will take a critical look at our connectivity systems, our transport infrastructure. And even if we develop the transport infrastructure and we fail to remove the bottlenecks in our border systems, customs, immigration, and other people who handle cargo and other movement of persons and goods, it will be difficult. So it's a holistic approach, and we need to look at that holistic approach and how we can leverage on that using the different means, technology, innovation, and capacity building of personnel, which is very key in all of this to be able to attain the sustainable supply chain system that we're all looking for.
How important is it for us to give equal attention to all modes of transport in the scheme of things?
So just from my explanation, door to door, through transport. So you cannot develop one side and leave the other because it is a holistic system. So once your inland transport is working well and your main connectivity at the ports is also working well, then it's so efficient. It's lift on, lift off, off it goes. Okay, less interruptions, less stoppage, and it's fast, reliable, efficient. Once you're able to, I mean, international trade is based on huge sums of money. Any delay is an add-on cost. And once there's an add-on cost, there's high cost of doing business in Africa because of some of these challenges. So once we're able to eliminate the bottlenecks, then the cost of doing business will also come down, which in overall translates into a boosting economy. And then once there's an effective transport system, we're also going to create employment. Imagine a lot of containers going on the Volta Lake to the north and other places, developing it. If Nigeria is also developing their waterways, and then the rail system is working. So there is employment, there is a boost in so many other activities that will bring. And once the systems are developed, including the ports, other industries also spring up because there's an enabling effect on other things. And that will promote economic growth and overall reduce the cost of doing business.
All right, those were the views of our guest on how we can create a sustainable supply chain in Africa. Now let us hear your comments on the subject we have just discussed after we go on break, and we'll be back with more news. This is from Kwesi Hassan. He says, I think government support for the maritime sector is not encouraging at all. Hope they listen to these submissions. This is from Abdul Rahman Wahab. He says, I admire the optimistic nature of Mr. Donikwame. Yes, we can. My name is Dan Ena Shalibotri. Gertrude is asking us to promote coastal shipping. How do we?
So if somebody has smaller quantity of goods and want to move them in bulk, it is not cost effective for the person to look for a big ship to be able to do that.
Right.
So the small ships are more cost effective to buy than buying a bigger ship.
Right.
So if we can support the private sector to be able to buy these small ships and maintain them and use them effectively, then we can promote using that to transport. When the big vessels bring them to the ports, we can use that to transport somebody's goods going just to Togo, to Benin, to Nigeria in the shortest possible time.
Right.
And that is a whole supply chain on its own.
Every now and again, Goil makes good things happen. This time, Goil has introduced Super XP Ron 95, a higher grade fuel loaded with additives and yet sold at the same price as normal fuel. Goil Super XP Ron 95 enhances engine performance like never before. It maintains the engine by keeping it clean from carbon deposits. Goil Super XP Ron 95 is designed to burn slowly and thus improves fuel economy, making you save money after several kilometers. Goil Super XP Ron 95 gives you a smooth driving experience, that is, less vibrations. Fill up with Goil Super XP Ron 95. Now there's no need to pay more for any higher grade fuel. Goil has that sorted. Goil, good energy.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse, and my machines that were affected by the floods have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance motor policy. Currently, my goods are on the high seas, covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance.
Oh, Ajima,
tell him more.
As a road contractor, I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance for the projects and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Welcome back from the break. Now let's move on to our local news segment. The Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, the Ghana Maritime Authority, and the stakeholders of the ABS Fishing Harbour in Secondary have collaboratively stepped up efforts to ensure the fishing harbour is clean at all times. Following a series of engagements with the Port Authority and the Maritime Authority, the fisherfolk have recently demonstrated a commitment to this cause. Members of the Ghana Inshore Fisheries Association, Canoe Fishers Association, the GPRTU, Fish Market Mummies, and the Esikado Chief Fisherman, all operating from the ABS Fishing Harbour in Secondary, have donated environmental management logistics in support of the joint effort.
Engineer Bakayan, no, you bought a pumping machine, na dashbin, na they could ma, you did be seeing a boat in the money, you will be a bain with Muno, is Abadazi.
I want to about Tonam, and one about Tunazua, Dibiania, the embassy of Noson, young boy, all day as a boy, Nayan so, yes, a boy.
Henry Papopong is the manager of the ABS Fishing Harbour.
The reason why we are here is that we've made the fishermen, the fish mummies, boat owners, all and some with GPRTU, all to understand that the port belongs to them. It is their future. That is why they say, we can only achieve that if they own the port. So the whole theme had been that you structure them, you talk to them to understand that they've been able to own the port. And what are they going to do? It is just to educate themselves, sensitize themselves that we are buying dustbins, we are buying pumping machines, we are cleaning the water basin.
The Western Region Deputy Director Technical at the Ghana Maritime Authority, Captain Clifford Ejakon, expressed satisfaction at the collaborative effort.
I'm very happy to say that the output or the contribution has been very encouraging. The local men are ready to participate. A couple of years back, when you talk of cleanliness along the beach, it's like a story.
A send-off parade has been held in honor of outgoing Deputy Port Security Manager at the Port of Tema, Samuel Adjetey, who retires from the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority after 33 years of service. Stakeholders from the Tema Port Business Enclave, current and former port security managers, and the authority's workers gathered to pay tribute to the security veteran, described by all as a dedicated, hard-working servant of the port. DPSM Samuel Adjetey is recognized by the Port Authority for his crucial role in ensuring compliance to the ISPS code. According to the Port Authority, his vast knowledge in maritime security and port operations always made it easy for successive port security managers to effortlessly filter into the operations of GPHA.
Indeed, every department or section has a go-to person. The person who knows how to handle the difficult situations and customers. The person who can be called upon at the most ungodly hour and will respond as though they had been waiting for the call to come through. That person who often has their wits and composure in check in the most dire circumstances. Officer Sami or Manager Sami has been that person for most of us.
The retired officer in turn urged the various security officers to give off their best in service to the Port Authority.
We should therefore see our service to the authority as an opportunity to serve and give off our best. This requires the need to be professional, dedicated to the core values of the organization, and be loyal to the leaders of the authority. We are all a team fighting for a common goal.
It's now time to take our lenses to the global stage and pick a few international shipping and maritime news. A chemical tanker Monjasa reformer was boarded by pirates on Saturday, March 25, some 140 nautical miles west of Port Point Noir, DR Congo. The British-French Naval Maritime Response Center, Maritime Domain Awareness for Trade, Gulf of Guinea, said a group of 5 pirates approached the tanker in a skiff before boarding it. Following the attack, the ship was seized by the pirates, who switched off the tanker's AIS transponder. The vessel, owned by Danish marine fuel supplier Monjasa, had 16 crew on board, who reportedly all took refuge in the citadel. Monjasa confirmed the attack, saying that it had lost all communication with the vessel and that it was working with local authorities to get in contact with the crew. Hutchison Ports, a global port operator, has revealed $700 million investment in 2 major projects in Egypt, Ain Sokhna Port and B100, a new container terminal in the port of Alexandria. This investment brings Hutchison Port's total investment in Egypt to over $1.5 million. The company aims to expand its network and strengthen its capabilities in emerging markets, and this investment lays a solid foundation for achieving that goal. The investment includes the development of a new container terminal in Ain Sokhna Port with a capacity of 1.7 million TEUs, which will be equipped with state-of-the-art technology and equipment. In addition, Hutchison Port will invest in the development of B100, a new container terminal in the port of Alexandria, which will serve as a gateway to the Egyptian market. For our Word of the Day segment today, we'll tell you what badge means. A barge is a large, flat-bottomed boat used to carry cargo from a port to shallow draft waterways. Barges have no locomotion and are pushed by towboats. It's time for the schedule of vessels that have berth in the ports of Tema and Accra and at the anchorages of both ports, as well as those expected in the coming weeks, plus the Bank of Ghana exchange rates, which you may need to know to clear your cargo with. This is where we draw the curtain on today's edition of Iron Port. We hope you've been informed and educated. Remember, all Iron Port content can be found on our YouTube channel, Iron Port. Subscribe, like, and give us feedback. Thank you for watching.